Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk at RSA. Terry Sweeney here, contributing editor with Dark Reading, and joining me now is Brad Brooks, CEO of Censys. Brad, thanks for doing the Dark Reading News Desk.
Thank you, Terry, for inviting me here. That's great.
We're talking about AI and its impact on the industry, but before we go there, for people who may be new to Censys, tell us a bit about your market position and where you are in the security marketplace.
Yeah, so what we do is we play a very interesting role. We are probably the premier intelligence service about the internet itself. So we are the one place to understand everything on the internet, everything really on the internet. Host, IoT, meter, asset within a public cloud.
Brad, from that perspective, tell us more about some of the biggest security challenges that you see from the incredibly complicated threat landscape that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, so I think it's different depending on who you are. So if you're a Fortune 500 company, the biggest issues that you're facing right now is really understanding what is out there and facing the internet. What's my perimeter? What are the things out there? What kind of current state are they in? Because you can't defend if you can't see it.
Sure.
So that visibility problem. From a government player like a civilian infrastructure, you've seen the stories of water dumping on the streets of Texas and New Jersey right now with nation-state actors turning on industrial control systems. And so understanding what my critical infrastructure looks like and what state that is in is probably the biggest thing facing governments these days.
Is there a Censys perception of the current threat landscape? Something that's in ascendancy, something that you see fading? It feels like we're kind of rotating between the pole stars of ransomware and maybe incipient AI threats. Is that an oversimplification?
No, it's not an oversimplification. I think AI is probably overused, but I think what AI is really bringing to the table is it's increasing the clock speed. So taking a term out of a CPU is how many instructions, right? Is that AI is just putting tremendous scale around the ability to, once you see an exploit, of being able to find that exploit and go take advantage of it. That's one of the big things that AI is doing. In terms of ascendancy or things that are on the rise right now, it is around finding exploitable items, particularly by nation-state actors. So 2 years ago, it was all about the ransomware folks that were coming in. It's really around nation-state actors pre-positioning attacks on campus or home routers, and using that infrastructure as a basis for attacking infrastructure, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense.
And also jumping into corporate environments and using their environments where they're poorly secured and using that as a basis of attack.
It strikes me that researchers are an important element in this equation that we're talking about here. How can organizations better support their own threat researchers? What are your thoughts there?
Well, first of all, it's about culture. Is a lot of times we'll default to, hey, you have to have technology and you have to have a technology like ours, which you do need to have the tools. But it's also around having the right people that actually understand how to make sense of that, the insight. AI can help in terms of pattern recognition, in terms of allowing a researcher to get to where they want to be. But you still need to have the folks that really have the insights and the experience that go along with it. And that's what something like Censys does. It's not that we just have this great intelligence tool that is providing this constantly updated picture of what's actually happening on the internet. It's also having a very in-depth research team that can interpret the results that is coming from that with our own, let's use it, AI tools to help us make sense of it.
So AI is really great at filtering the anomalies, those sorts of things up to a SOC professional's consciousness. Are we at the point yet, though, where AI is also developed enough, smart enough, intelligent enough to also take action based on the nature of the threat they've surfaced?
Well, it depends on what you mean by action. So for instance, let me give you an idea of how we use it internally. I brought up the idea of the water systems being exposed. That's a big critical infrastructure issue right now. But the thing is those industrial control systems that are powering water systems are also powering pump jacks for fracking wells in Colorado. And so knowing the difference between, is that a pump jack or is that a water tower, knowing who owns it and being able to ascribe ownership to it is we can use AI based on a number of different things about what we're seeing and get pretty definitive about who owns it and what's it actually doing. That can be very helpful. Now, is it actually taking action itself? No, but is it leading a team to be very specific and pinpointed about what's the biggest risk and how do I prioritize it? Yes, and that's where a company like Censys really shines, is being able to do that type of intelligence that's actionable in terms of what you can do with it.
You mentioned the nation-state actors a couple times. I'm sure they're one element in the whole discussion around protecting critical infrastructure and those types of key assets. Is AI going to be a help there, or is it not really much of a net gain since the attackers are also using AI tools?
It's actually tremendously helpful, and here's why. Is with a product like ours, is it's not just our paying large enterprise, large banks, large government customers using us. It's also, we have a community. We have over 300,000 accounts, of which 20, 30,000 are active in any 1 week using our publicly available product. They are putting queries into that. They are also, we started almost a year now, Censys GPT. It was originally started where you could put a competitive query into it and get a census return on it. But now it's been able to update to languages, and so now we do queries across native languages and everything from Russian to Mandarin Chinese, etc. All of those queries and what people are doing with those queries become intelligence that feeds back our AI, right? And when we see that activity, we can see somebody building a web camera network across Southeast Asian countries. We can see somebody has probably found a vulnerability in a French voice over IP networking application that's very specific to French countries. And when you can see that, then the AI can tell you, or then our research team more likely can say, you know what, we should go notify that company or country or whatever it is that something's going on.
Yeah, well, search data is breadcrumbs, it sounds like.
Exactly. So the search data and the queries themselves are a wonderfully powerful tool for us to actually understand what's happening on the internet, not just in the devices themselves, but the behaviors of the people of how they're thinking about those devices.
Brad, take us out with some a prediction or two. What do you foresee on the horizon for both the security industry and Censys's own role within that?
Yeah, I think what we are seeing on the critical infrastructure attack level is only just beginning, unfortunately. There are so many things out there right now that are easy to exploit that we are just scratching the surface, and that is going to become a big issue. I think the other piece is really, again, this whole concept of clock speed, or the speed of which attacks or exploits, is the critical zero-day vulnerability is almost going to be it's almost a singularity point, which is AI is really going to amplify the speed of which these things can be exploited by bad actors.
Indeed. Well, I appreciate your perspective on AI and protection and threat intelligence. Thanks so much for doing the Dark Reading News Desk today.
Terry, thank you very much.
We've been talking with Brad Brooks of Censys. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.